I feel like I have this bar above my head that keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and I don't know how to fix it. My body, my relationships, something, my mental health is going to take a hit because I will be crushed under the weight of this. I didn't realize how much I would be responsible for as a practice owner. Nobody had talked about those things. Everybody had talked about control of having your own practice and establishing your own vision and getting to do things your way and like all of, the creativity of it. And then you start out on the journey and suddenly you're like, oh man, I got to know OSHA. I have to know HIPAA. I have to know employment law. My reputation matters so greatly in the community and in the practice. I have to be on all the time. Plus I'm trying to take care of my growing family. And it's just this really real season that I think a lot of doctors go through.
I'm Dr. Scott Law, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast. I'm very, very excited for today's guest, Dr. Jackie Sheik. She's wonderful. And you are going to find out all about her, about the depth of her as a person, as a leader, and as an orthodontist today. I'm excited just to jump right in. Jackie, welcome to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast.
Thank you, Scott. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to this.
Jackie, really quick, I would love for people to get to know you really fast before we begin. So I have some questions for you. So I'm just going to pop them off, and you just, whatever comes to your head first, let's hear them.
Sounds good.
What are you and your team most known for?
I think we're most known for the feeling people have when they walk in the office. That's the answer, I would say, because that's the comment we get the most. It's like, wow, it just feels really good in here.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that says so much because right off it hits them in the gut and something resonates. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
You got it.
Okay. When and where are you happiest?
I was going to say on stage, like performing with Relapse. Absolutely. Okay. I'm in the zone. I am super happy. I do some solo traveling when I'm just by myself in a new environment. I am free and happy. And if that's truly a joy for me.
I love it. Okay. So on stage, you play multiple instruments. I've seen you sing. I've seen you dance. I've seen you play all sorts of stuff. You're super talented, but which talent would you most like to have that you don't currently have?
Well, I was going to say dancing because I feel like I'm not like flowy coordinated dancer. But I think I need to say swimming. I can get from point A to point B, but I am not a strong swimmer and I've always wanted to be. So that's I'm envious of people that are really strong swimmers.
Great.
And do it for fun.
Yeah. Talk to Christian Growth. There we go. All right.
There you go.
Let's see. If you weren't an orthodontist, what would you be?
Yep. My backup career was music producer. I used to find undiscovered bands, burn discs, CDs off Napster of like live performances of these undiscovered people and distribute them to my friends and be like, you need to know this person. You need to know this person. I didn't have the money at the time to go back them, but music producing would probably be my jam.
I love it. Okay. That's great. Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. And then what is your motto?
I think the thing that I say the most is this too shall pass, whether it's good or bad. It's one of those things that nothing is permanent. And, I heard that when I was a new mom. It was like, this too shall pass. So soak up the good stuff and just be patient through the bad because it all goes eventually.
Yeah. Nothing is as good as it seems, nor as bad as it appears. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. Cool. Well, let's jump in. So you are known for who you are as a person and as a leader. And I remember one of the things that really stood out for me was how much you love the culture within your office and how you protect it. And that's very near and dear to me. Talk to me a little bit about your culture. What do you guys do on a daily basis? What's your approach?
Yeah, actually, thanks for bringing that up because you probably remember this, but before I affiliated with Smile Doctors, I asked to talk to you because I wanted to know that I could trust the vision and the values of Smile Doctors. And if I was going to affiliate, I needed, like you said, to protect that part of my practice because there's a lot of I'm going to use the word intention a lot, I think, on this podcast, but there was a lot of intention with starting up my practice and making sure that the values of my practice fit my own personal values, that we served our patients in the right way. And I wanted that to be maintained. So yeah, I guess just to speak a little bit about my practice, it's a single doctor, single location. We are in Northfield, Minnesota, which is about 40 minutes south of the metro, Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's a small town. I live and work in this community, raise my kids here. There are 2 colleges. It's on a river. It's just a really special place. And we moved here. My husband and I moved here because we wanted to live here. And I didn't know how successful we would end up being with the practice. It was more, I always said, if I can keep a smile on my face and pay off my debt, that's all I need. I wanted to live here and raise my kids. And we established the practice. I had worked as an associate for a few years in a different location. And it was a much different practice model as far as it was larger, multi-location, multi-doctor. And a wonderful team and a wonderful learning experience, but just ultimately not a values alignment for me. And so we made the decision to move and start from scratch and build this thing from the heart, and I knew what kind of doctor I wanted to be. I knew what kind of orthodontist I wanted to be. And so the practice has really been that. And we've been very consistent with that. So it's taking care of our patients in a way that they are individuals. We get to know them as people. I customize the treatment plans to make sure that their goals are met, whatever that may be. So I spend a lot of time in my consultations getting to know them and their personal goals. I worked hard to become a master at multiple tools so I can use what's going to make the most sense for them and be successful for them versus trying to push them into a certain model of treatment. My team matters the world to me. I really care about them as people, and that I hope they feel that. And, I collaborate with them. I communicate with them. I respect their opinions and how they're feeling about their day. And that passes on to the patients and how they care for the patients. So, we try to have fun, but we care a lot about our results and our atmosphere.
100%. What are some of those values? You clearly live with intention. So I'm just curious, what are the values of your heart?
Yeah. Personally, freedom, fun, creativity, inspiration, variety, just new. That's challenge. Like I love change and challenges. So that's me personally. And like I said, I carried that into my practice in a sense where, just to kind of back up, when I opened the practice, I actually didn't have written core values.
Okay.
I felt like I bled them. It was like, I don't need to write these down because this is what I speak every day and this is what I live every day. But ultimately, I found out a few years in that I wanted to have them written because as my team, as we added new team members, as we grew, it felt like something that would bring us together in a way that we could all speak the same language versus me just assuming, that everybody knew who I was and therefore what the practice needed to be. And so we've actually written down our core values and we live those out every day through different, we'll bring them to huddle. We'll bring up examples of how we're living those out. And so because I'm a word nerd, we made them into an acronym. That's SMILE. Yep. So we are people who smile, and it's serve others first, make an impact, improve with intention, learn because we love it, and expect the best. And those just really I spent a lot of time on that, just felt those are very true, not only to my personal values, but what kind of practice I wanted to have.
I love that. I think today we'll talk a lot about who you are as a person, as a leader, orthodontist, and then also at home, if you're okay. I think all of it carries over. Sometimes I often hear people say, I need this work-life balance and I need to compartmentalize one part of my life and one part over there. And I used to just go along with it. And then I thought that's nonsense. Actually, it's like, I think it's work, life, passion, integration all throughout it. So all that we do is a reflection of who we are, what's on our heart, how we live, how we are with everyone we come into contact. So yeah, I have a fun story about that a little bit later, but maybe we'll get into that. But
absolutely.
Yeah, how does it carry over? So you're living your 1,000-watt life, your best life at all times. What is that at home too?
Well, I don't think it's my best life at all times, actually. Okay. We could probably get into that more too. Yeah. That's too hard. Like that's too much pressure. You can't be on your 1,000 watts all the time. But I do think about it all the time, right? Like that's where the intention piece, I think, comes in, is I want to be my best all the time. And so when I shouldn't say I want to be my best. I want to be in alignment all the time, you know, and I want to make sure that I'm bringing that to the people in my life. And I don't succeed at it all the time. Who does? I don't think we can. Right. But being aware of that and knowing where you're headed, I think is a big part of that. And so, yeah, when I'm with my kids, am I perfect? No. Am I off my phone? Of course not. But I am trying, right? Or I have intention around that. So I'll block time in my schedule for my kids. If they bring something up that's important to them, I'm putting it on my calendar because I don't want to forget it in the rush and the hustle of everything else. And I want to make sure I've made the time for that. I focus a lot on presence outside of the office, in the office, like be where your feet are, and that's hard for me because my head's always in the next thing and moving on to the next thing. So that's an exercise I work a lot on, is presence. And still I'm working on that, just being grateful and present. And so I don't know if that answered the question really, but you're right about it's not a work-life balance in the sense of here's my work, here's my life. I'm going to keep those scales even all the time because you just can't do it. It's a blend. And I'm a mom at the office sometimes if I have to be, and I'm working at home if I have to be, and that's just how it is. That's life.
That's it. Yeah, you can't have one without the other, and that just becomes who you are. I got a quote from my dad. He used to say this all the time growing up. It's be where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to be doing it. That's Burl Law right there. So,
Burl, I love it.
Yeah, but that could translate over to exactly like be where you are, doing what you're supposed to be doing at the time when you're supposed to be doing it. And that if all that comes in alignment, then you're doing a pretty good job. I don't know about you, but I am a recovering perfectionist. It nearly destroyed me. I don't know how you juggle that. How did you ever struggle with that?
Were you aware you were a perfectionist?
Oh yeah.
Like you knew it. You identified as a perfectionist. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a great thing. I took great pride in I'm better than you, better than everyone else because I'm striving for perfection, even though perfection is like the absolute lowest aim point because it's impossible. You can never get
impossible.
It. Yeah. So, yeah.
True.
Yeah. I see a lot of orthodontists who struggle with that. I think it's driven in our heads, right? To be perfectionists on every single thing. And it drives us mad. But it's how
we're trained. I mean, we're already built that way, likely as people. That's why we're drawn to this profession. And then we're trained. It's drilled into us. It's never good enough. Keep going, keep trying. Take that little 1 degree, torque that you missed. Didn't you see that?
Right. Yeah. How have you changed over time? Is it something that you seek or sought, or where are you at with it?
Yeah, the reason I asked is I don't think I identified essentially as a perfectionist. I knew that type, and they were very anal. They were very like this, and I was like, oh, I'm better than that. Like I'm not that. And I think it was as I grew in self-awareness, which we can get into this too, but I started, personal coaching back in 2016.
Yeah.
And did it thinking, oh, I'm already here. I just need a little tweak. Right. And then you start waking up to all of these things. Yes. And that's where I realized, wow, I like a lot of my procrastination or a lot of my self-flagellation, like all of that's coming from a perfectionist tendency that I really didn't think I had. And so it's waking up to things and then working on those things to get through those things. And so I don't know, I have like a vision board almost in my office, like little sticky notes of things, and perfect is the enemy of the good was one that I put up a long time ago, and I see it every day. And it helps a lot actually to think of it that way, because at some point, some things just have to get done. And if you keep waiting to make them perfect, they're not going to get done, and that's worse. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
Pressure mounts, stress, you take your eye off the ball in other areas and you feel worse. Oh, I totally get it. So you have a vision board, and techniques that you use. What other tools or resources do you have to approach this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I say vision board, it's actually a little mirror that has just sticky notes around it.
Perfect.
I see all the time.
You see
or
yourself.
Yeah. One of the other tools is I have a daily calendar, like a tear off, once a day calendar.
Yeah.
Every year I choose a new one about, kind of where I'm at, what I'm hoping for the new year. And so sometimes I'll take those, like their inspirational quotes, their motivational things, their funny things, whatever they are. Every year is different. Self-compassion was one year. And so I'll keep some of those and put those up around my mirror as well. So I can look back even at the date and say, oh man, in 2021, this is what I was needing, and so that helps too, as far as a reflection back on how far you've come. I'm like one of my strengths, if you do the strengths finder, the number one for me is input. So I am just listening and reading and absorbing from people, from podcasts, mentors all the time. So that's a big help for me too, and a tool that I use.
That's great. Do you then take that and apply that to your office, to your team, as far as your leadership approach?
As far as like the daily quotes or the inspiration?
Yeah. Or for them, like a vision board on what your goals are, or what that is. How do you apply it to the office?
So that's actually a good question. It'd be a great idea. I mean, we have definitely, we had a door in the back in our staff area where we would put motivational quotes and things up, and fun pictures of us together. We have our core values posted on the wall. We have once a year, we try to get together and do like a state of the practice and kind of reflect back on what we've done and where we're going. So I do bring some of those strategic planning tools, and what I'm learning in coaching, I try to bring to them. Right. Or we do book clubs. So a lot of that personal growth and development trickles out into my team too.
That's great. I've been to different offices, and one, Josh Adcox leads one, and their morning huddle, they have a vision board. Basically it's statements of what they're becoming as a practice, as a team. And so I am statements are extremely powerful. It's a statement of creation of what you want, and they do it, and they continue to just blossom and build and grow as individuals and as a team. So it's
that's amazing.
Cool thing I've seen.
I'm not surprised. I mean, that makes sense to me, but
I went there and I saw it and I was like, what? Oh my goodness. I need to do this. I need to do it with my kiddos.
I was just going to say, I do these, at night, I try to speak affirmations to my kids, right? If we're snuggling and we're going to bed, and we say our affirmations, and to do that with your team is pretty powerful too, and uniting.
Huge.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah. Very much. Sure. Yeah. How they overcome obstacles. How do they come together? Oh yeah. It's great.
Well, and just rowing in the same direction. Yeah. Just like knowing where we're headed, what we want to become. I love that.
Right. For other people, right? For the patients on behalf of them, or one another as a team. And so it's just that whole service mindset.
Absolutely.
It was great.
And this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I do feel like you brought that up, and I think about my team, and sometimes we've actually gotten to be a little too navel gazing, what that means? Like we look internally, like, who are we? What are we doing? How are we growing? How do we communicate? How do we, and it's like, well, truly, ultimately, who are we here for? It's the patient. And so sometimes it's like a balance of that too. We want to focus on our culture and our team and our communication with each other, but ultimately, we're here for that patient, and making sure we're passing that to them then too.
Yeah. I agree. That one in the chair right now, in place. Yeah.
Yep. We say every patient, every time. Yeah. Every patient, every time, because it's like they see one orthodontist, hopefully, right, in their entire life. Yeah. And, even if we're seeing 60 to 150 patients a day,
right,
it's that person. Like, they are a one person. We are their orthodontic experience. And so every patient, every time deserves our best.
Yeah. What's the impact we can have on them? Yeah. And it's my favorite thing. It's my absolute favorite thing when we can connect with them. And if you think about it, like, we have a little bit of an unfair advantage, right? So they're laid back. They're in a little bit of a vulnerable position. We're the doctor. Many, many people still have respect for that. And when we can come and be on their level with them and sit them up and talk to them about life and their goals and what they want, little tap on the shoulder, just a connection, a look in the eyes,
yep.
and tell them who they are for us as a person or as goals or what they want to achieve. It hits so strong for them, and they believe it and they feel it. And it's like, why I don't want to miss those opportunities. It's so huge. So
I love that.
That's my favorite thing. I know I get choked up about it. I love it so much.
Do you have to do anything intentionally in the morning? Like, do you to remember that, or does it just happen for you when you're practicing?
Well, when we set it up right, and I think that's why we work so hard on the huddle, on the prep. So when we get to the chair, as many decisions that the doctor has made are already done and moved forward with. So the communication we take care of just in systems. So there's not all the hustle bustle and people are dependent on, it's all bottlenecked on me. And it used to be completely. And I had the big ego and thought that's the way it should be done. Like everybody needs to wait on me. I'm the show. Oh man, have I learned and I'm still learning, but when all that's taken care of, then it's so smooth. And then it allows to get all that stuff out of the way. So treatment is taken care of. And it's just going, and I get to come confirm treatment, confirm what we're doing next time. And I guess you could just go jump on a phone call in the back or jump on a text and just be, quick, get them out of here. But instead it's like, no, take the time. So sit in the assistant chair, swing it around to the patient's side, and then look at them face to face. Yeah. And just connect just real quick. Just ask them about life. And some kids will, some adults will, some won't. Some will keep it real. They got a little wall up. But you do it enough times, they start to go, actually, I think he really cares. I think he's really about this. And then they begin to crack open a little bit. And they do with the team and everybody else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And then not only is your treatment systemized and efficient from the back end of it, but now everything's better because that patient trusts you and likes you, hopefully, and respects what you're trying to do for them. And you have a lot fewer hard conversations.
We have an obligation to them. I think when we know where much is given, much is required that way, where we know what the psychological change that takes place through orthodontics, it's like, let's do it. Let's connect. Let's build them up in every way possible. And right now we straighten their teeth. They look in the mirror. They have a different outlook on what's possible for them in their life. It's like, let's help them go get it. Go get it.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know about you, but that's why I became an orthodontist. And everybody has their own journey into orthodontics. But for me, it was when I got my braces off and I realized this is who I get to be. It was like this moment of you're at this teen awkward age and you're realizing who you're going to become. And suddenly I had this smile that I loved and this confidence behind it. And I just thought, this is cool, right? Like it kind of started the journey for me to think that you can do that for other people. And I think about that a lot, that they may not appreciate it at the same time, the way I did or at that time, but we're giving them a gift and trying to remember that too in all the hustle.
That's awesome. Yeah. And some may get it in the moment. Some may get it later. Some may never get it. Either way we give it. We give our all on it. Yeah. Yeah. And it will hit for some. And that's just what it is. I love it. Okay. Let's pivot a little bit. Okay. So kind of, let's get into like joy and alignment a little bit. And so, you talked about your values and your approach with those and then sharing those with your team. I've heard you talk a little bit about the bar. Tell us about that.
I can still remember the moment it came to me, this visual. And so I've used it in my presentations because I think it resonates with a lot of doctors. And I was in my office early years of the startup and I had this assistant and I remember her coming to me and I was looking at my computer and I just said, I feel like I have this bar above my head that keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I don't know how to fix it. And it was such a visual for me of, and you know this, Scott, as a weightlifter, right? But like holding this bar above your head, and the weights keep piling on and on and on. And I remember thinking, this is something that I need to fix, because either I'm going to keep piling these weights on and this bar is going to crush me, and I'm going to suffer somehow. Like my body, my relationships, something, my mental health is going to take a hit, because I will be crushed under the weight of this. Or I need to focus on lifting up the team, because what she responded with was, we're here. I want to help you. How can I help you? And so I really shifted my focus into delegation and leadership and building this team that I could trust to support this bar of expectations above my head and the vision of what I had created. And then the other part of it is also learning to shed some of that weight, like what really matters, what needs to be on that bar and what doesn't, because a lot of it was FOMO, right? Facebook groups and comparison and, obligation to everyone around me. And it was just like, boom, 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 boom. I didn't realize how much I would be responsible for as a practice owner. Nobody had talked about those things. Everybody had talked about the control of having your own practice and establishing your own vision and getting to do things your way, and like all of, the creativity of it. And all of that was very appealing, right? And then you start out on the journey and suddenly you're like, oh man, I got to know OSHA. I have to know HIPAA. I have to know employment law. I have to, my reputation matters so greatly in the community and in the practice. I have to be on all the time, plus I'm trying to take care of my growing family. And anyway, it's just this really real season that I think a lot of doctors go through. And after I speak and when I show that visual, that is the thing that people come up to me the most about afterwards in almost all cases. And so I know it's still, even though I feel like culture's changing, younger doctors get this better than I think older doctors do. Yeah. And the environment is changing, where you can prioritize yourself more openly and you're not feeling the obligation to others as strongly anymore. Yet it's still pressure. And it's definitely something that doctors are still waking up to, I think. And so I talk about it a lot because I'm still on the journey, but I want people to know it's normal and it's surmountable. You don't have to live that way.
Yep. So you talked a lot about that. So about the weight that you're carrying overhead. You had your team member come up and say,
I had my vision.
We can help.
Yes.
So, and then you also talked about you don't have to pick up that weight, all of that weight either. And you can say no. So how have you managed that? What are things you've done?
Yeah, a lot. Here, let's see. Well, like I said, I started working with a small business leadership coach.
Cool.
Because I wanted to strengthen myself, right? I needed to get stronger.
Starts with me, right? Yeah.
Starts with me. Absolutely. Yep. And so that was number one. And I really put a lot of time into my self-awareness and my growth as a leader. And my own ability to lead a team and to speak to a team and tell them what I needed from them and do it in a way that hopefully, they could receive well and feel supported in. I learned a lot about delegation because I held on to everything. I mean, again, so much of this is normal, but you start this little baby practice, right? And you want it to just be exactly what you want it to be. And so everything has to come through me. Everything has to be held really, really tightly. Nothing can get done without my approval, without my eyes on it. So I had to learn to let go. And again, that's the perfectionist tendency, right?
Yeah,
but learning to trust and learning to delegate appropriately and effectively was a area that I put some focus on. I think those two, kind of a two-prong, at least on that part, but working on myself and my leadership and then empowering my team as well to help support it.
I agree. I think those are the first steps for sure. Yeah. The changing your perspective on what really matters. That was the thing that I've come to understand. I thought every single little detail, everything mattered. And I think it does, but to varying degrees. And so, I spend so much time on one thing. It's like, oh no, I'm missing all the big rocks because I'm going after all the menial little teeny things instead of what truly matters. And oftentimes that's people. And, you displace them for the sake of achieving some objective or something, and betray everything that you did to get into doing, your whole why behind it all. And so for me, that was a big one. I totally get what you're talking about on the perfectionism side. Yeah. It's like, hey, how much is great? What is great? And what is perfect? Great is really pretty great. Let's get a lot of great instead of like one thing perfect. And especially as a business, our first CEO here at Smile Doctors, Scotty Hudsmith, said, and he was right. He's like, orthodontists run their business in millimeters. And I went, oh my goodness. In many cases, he was so right, because we cared about all these little things, and you can't win a race taking millimeter steps. You have to really extend that out and understand that, okay, if there's a little misstep, let's make a correction, mid-course correction.
That's exactly it.
Quickly,
it's okay to make mistakes. And you think about like your first negative review, or the first time a patient is upset about something, and how fragile everything feels. Right. And knowing, and again, a lot of this just comes with time and experience. You have to experience those things and realize you're going to survive them to get to the other side of it too. But I always say, if I could have heard those things first, like if somebody would have told me it's okay, you're going to be fine, like this is okay, I wouldn't have carried it so heavily. So that's what I try to do, is tell other people it's okay. Yeah.
Man, those Google reviews, those 1-stars still, they
still stayed. Of course.
They don't feel good, right? They still feel like a punch in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
But there's crazy people out there. They're crazy. And so we're going to have the crazies. And there's nothing we can do about it except go and do better with more, and just try and bury some of those crazy ones with 5 stars. Yeah. And that's it.
Well, and also I've learned, if I trust that I'm doing what I can do, if I am absolutely doing good work, I'm communicating with them, I have done what I can do, then yes, you know what, let it go. But is there something I could have done differently? Great. Then let's use it as an opportunity to tweak a system, but you can't change systems for the vocal minority either.
So true. So I'm so glad you said it. I'm so glad you said it, because how often do we change a process because we get burned one out of
one time? Yes.
That
we forget all the good successes.
Right. We had some new wrench in the system, some new onboarding in, patient assimilation process. Now that we need signatures at debond and all this stuff to say you were happy. That's the one I chuckle at the most. It's like, well, I need them to sign that they were happy. And I said, okay, that's good. So you have it documented that they were happy. That doesn't change the fact that maybe a few months later they come back in and they're not happy. What are you going to shove this paper in their face? Like going, well, you were happy and you signed. Like, that's just going to make it worse. You're still going to have to accommodate them when a little, something arises that they don't like. Let's cross that bridge later. So why are we going to have them sign? And eventually the orthodontist goes, yeah, okay, well, let's just take them as they come. Yeah, just do that. We're gonna make it right. We always do.
We absolutely do.
It's kind of fun. We're funny. We're funny people in that way.
Yeah, and I think about my team. Same thing. Like they come with these concerns from a patient, and I used to respond in that way. Like, okay, well, what do we need to do? Let's go back to the drawing board. Right. What's our system around that? And now it's just like, it's okay. It's just one. Think of all the times that's actually worked really, really well. Yeah. We'll take care of this one, but we're okay. Let's not change it all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep on going. Mistakes happen.
We're going to make it right. Yep. This is a unique one. We're not going to revamp our whole system because of this one. Yeah, that's right.
You got it.
Okay. So orthodontist, mom, bass player, vocalist, you got all these things going on. You're in Relapse, the band, the orthodontist only band. Super cool. I think that was one of the first times that I saw you up there, and I'm trying to remember the song you sang, and I choked up because it was fantastic. No, honestly, I love female vocalists that get up and belt and hit it. It's my favorite thing. Oh man,
that's awesome.
I'm a Heart, Pat Benatar, Evanescence, any of those, like I love female vocals.
That's so cool. Adding to my list here now, what tracks I need to do moving forward.
When I hear them, I'm just like, they go all out. Just, it's just my favorite. So I saw you do that. So that's been fun. But how do you manage all of your time? You have you're pulled in so many different directions. What are some of your techniques that you can share with us on how to be better?
Yeah. So I get asked this all the time, and it is something that I've put a lot of intention on because I want to do things that I want to do. And I also know that every yes is a no to something. That was a lesson that I very much learned and took to heart. And so I live by my calendar. I use it for everything. So family, obviously, organization, all of us have our own calendars. I have work calendars. I have personal care calendar, task calendar, things that I can turn on and off. So it's not overwhelming visually, but I keep everything organized on my calendar, including just like preparation time, what I'm going to need to do to accept that event. If I'm speaking, I block out time for my slide presentation creation. And I really live by that. So it's a visual for me, which is great because I'm a visual person, but it helps me know, can I say yes to this? And if I say yes to that, what does that mean? Like, where is that time going to come from? Is it on my weekend? Because that's the only open space I have. Then I need to decide if that's worth it or not. I also really prioritize rest. Sometimes people will be like, oh, you must just have unlimited energy and you must just go. And it's actually not true at all. I very much like lean into what I love to do and lean back out again to recover, and that wasn't always the case. It was, you're just on this go all the time. And so I've really started prioritizing my sleep and my rest and my self-care and all the things. And part of that's just getting older and having less reserve, I think. But it matters. And I think that the other part of it when I talk about like go is there was a lot of learning about saying yes to things that I wanted to say yes to instead of saying yes to everything that everyone else needed from me. And figuring out the difference between those things. And again, I give a lot of credit, we haven't talked too much about my decision to affiliate, but with Smile Doctors, I had kind of done everything up to that point to build the balance and the alignment and the joy in my life. Right. And there was still this part of obligation to the business, things that I just had to be doing to manage and run a successful business. And they weren't as fun anymore. It was like I'd created these systems and that was really fun. Maintaining the systems and updating the systems because of new laws and new regulations and new employment demands. That was less fun for me. And so I started doing some really deep searching about, again, like, what's my future look like? Where do I want to be putting my time? What do I want to be saying yes to? Do I want to be spending 8 hours a week on these tasks? Or do I want to be spending 8 hours a week on playing music? And kind of starting to decide before it was too late. I wanted to make sure that I was proactive in that. And I started to see some patterns of like, I don't want to say it's resentment, but just things like building of, man, this is just not feeling the same way for me anymore. How do I fix it? So it's that. It's listening to yourself. It's learning a lot about yourself and where you want to be again, what's in alignment for you. And starting to create the time for those things that are in alignment. So it gives you more fuel to do the things you have to do that may not feel as good.
So let's imagine somebody out there listening to this is feeling the weight of running things and all the different obligations and areas of their life with everything, family, professional, from the business, from any hobbies, their self-care, all that. What advice do you have? How should one start?
Where to start is a really good question because I do think it's going to be different for everybody, but I think it requires time to sit with yourself and not with other voices. If that makes sense, to just take some time. Like the way it started for me, it was doing an hour or two strategic planning for my coming year. And I had never really done that before. I had heard the idea through a podcast. And I sat down and I wrote down all the successes of my current year, all the challenges of the current year. And it was right around this time of year, before the new year. thinking about what do I want next year to look like? Right. And it's kind of bringing awareness to the things that you are doing and what is working and what's not working and what you want to change. I think the other part, like we can talk a little bit more about the time tracking, because when I was most overwhelmed, that was such an effective exercise, even though it was more time at the time. It's like teach a man to fish, right? It takes more time to delegate, but eventually it pays off. It was that same thing. So I spent 2 weeks with a notebook in my office and I wrote down every single thing I was doing and how long it took me.
Okay. Yeah.
Like to the minute, as best as I could. And then I went through those pages and I did the 4 Ds, I call it, the 4 Ds of time tracking. So I looked at every item and I said, do I need to be doing this? Can I defer this? Can I delegate this? Or can I delete it? And it's amazing how much you can delete, and things that you're spending your time on that you don't need to spend your time on, or things that you can delegate to somebody else. And so that started to just the journey of opening up more time in my schedule and starting to realize, where I wanted to be spending my time.
Right. I love that. I love that. I've heard it put another way where you look at what you're doing and you kind of have a numerator and a denominator of how important is this task, right? From 1 to 10. And then how important is it that this be done by me, 1 to 10. And so you're able to then go, all right, I'm spending a lot of time doing this when somebody else can. Let's delegate this one. Or this is one that I must do. Like state dental law. I have to do this one. Great.
Yep.
And so that's one that you got to keep for sure. Can't delegate that one away. But you just kind of look to see, and you get, but also it could be like, maybe this is just something silly and I'm spending a lot of time on it. Well, let's figure out, delete it, to your point. I love that. Or get someone else, delegate it, or maybe might be something you just got to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What calendar system do you use?
Google. I just find Google. Yeah. It's the easiest for me. It's I can color coordinate it. I can share it. Yeah. Yeah. That one's been the easiest for me.
We live and die by Cozi, COZI.
Yes. I've looked at that one too. That's awesome.
Yeah. With a big family and every kid has their own calendar. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot that way. I can import work calendar. I can import all calendars. But yeah, it's huge.
If we put your calendar up on the screen, I'm sure we would.
Yeah.
We would laugh.
There's 12 users. You only get 12 calendars. So we're tapped on that one.
I only have 4 kids, Scott. So I know, like, speaking to you, this is different. But
it all applies. Yeah, it all applies. That's great. I've also heard you talk some about that. So aside from your 4 Ds, you have another approach with it, with your time management, the wellness wheel. Yeah.
So wellness wheel, less so time management, more so personal management, and wellness, obviously wellness. Right. So I think of the wellness wheel came up. I had gotten together with a few ladies in my community, friends of mine. We were all trying to be the best parents we could be, kind of work together, communicate about our struggles and our goals. And one of them brought this to the group, and we started checking in monthly on this wellness wheel. And basically what it is, there's 10 areas of wellness, and it's financial wellness, spiritual wellness, physical wellness, relational wellness. There's a lot of them. And you rank yourself 1 to 10. Where am I right now in each of these areas? With the goal being that you have a circle, right? An actual wheel. Because if you think of it, if you're going to have any bumps in the road, right? Those areas, as you go closer to the center, will hold you up or make your road a little more bumpy. So the goal is always to have a nice rounded wheel of wellness. And it was just a nice way and something that I think was a good tool for me to start thinking about more intentionally, but to have, okay, wow, this month, this felt really challenging. I need to put my focus in that area. Everything else seems to be going pretty smoothly. Let's start focusing on this. Or what can I do to improve this area? Or just recognizing patterns, starting to see areas that show up over and over again. Maybe it's seasonal, but it just was is a very helpful tool, I think, to kind of bring more awareness around areas of growth, areas of focus, because I truly think if you're focused on those areas and you have intention around those areas, that's where you start to see the magic happen. When you have your blinders on and you're not thinking, you're just taking what's coming at you every day and getting done what you have to get done every day. We know this as business owners, it's like the 30,000 foot view, right? But doing that for your life as well, and kind of stepping back to take a look at the big picture and look at all those areas that you may not be thinking about. So you can have gratitude. Wow, look at what's going well. Look at where I'm an 8 to a 10 right now. That's awesome. Right. I might not even think about that otherwise because it's doesn't require my attention. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's nice. It's like a celebration and an area of focus. And so I found that to be a really good tool.
Well, that's great. That's great. I sometimes will get pushback from some doctors on doing things like this. A lot in the office. And I don't know if they do it or don't do it personally. But I can't help but equate it to football, a football game. Like you play Friday night, let's say. Well, all week you're in prep. You're in prep, you step back, you get game film, you understand the situation. So you're at like a 30,000 foot view. And then you have practices, intentional practices that you go through in preparation. And then you get to the game, and I always chuckle because I'll hear some doctors who don't do a morning huddle because they're like, what's the point? And I'm like, okay, so you would play a football game and not huddle before the play. Is that what you're telling me? Just go out and get it done. Like everybody should know what they're doing. And I just laugh about it. And I feel really bad. I feel bad for the team.
For the team.
I feel bad for the patients.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just supposed to just go out there and play backyard football and run around and hopefully somebody gets open. It's like, no, go out there with intention, like you're saying, having a game plan for what you want to accomplish. And set aside the time planning of what you want to go and execute is, oh man, it just makes your effort so valuable. If you just go out there and work really hard with kind of a general objective, then you'll make some progress, I guess, but not rifle shot like what you want.
You got it. I'm effective and efficient. It's like why waste time, energy, all of that? Just, really set your intention and try to get there as efficiently as you can and effectively. We actually have morning and afternoon and sometimes end of day huddles. My team, quick ones. We just, quick ones. Reset. How'd the morning go? What's coming up on the afternoon? How are we feeling? End of day. Let's wrap it up. Does anybody need anything? How'd the day go? Did we run into any obstacles? So they can leave it there. They don't take it home with them. We've talked through it. We've set ourselves up for success the next day. Yeah, I don't think you can have too much communication or collaboration with your teams to help them too. And like you said, it trickles down then into the patient experience. Yeah.
And same at home. We have the same stuff. We have our Sunday quick, hey, let's look at the week. What do we have on the calendars? What's going on? What do we want to accomplish? What didn't go right? How can we fix? And then we have a quick one in the morning too. It's
Love it.
No, we want that. And then to move forward. I think
do you include your kids on it? Oh, sorry to interrupt, but
absolutely. They're in charge. Yeah. When they reach a certain age, they're in charge of their own calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's exactly what we say.
And it has to be there. And they have to have their school calendar, their practice schedules, game schedules, all the stuff. And
I love that.
There's a little leeway, at times, but we really we gotta get it there. And we're trying to train them on how to live their best life with intention on what do they want to accomplish? What do you want to get?
Absolutely.
With a true focus on progress, not perfection. How can you get a little better, little better, little better? Did you get a little better? Just a little, not as much as I wanted. Okay. Well, there's tomorrow. Let's go get it. Let's go get it.
I love it.
But yeah.
It's awesome, Scott.
No, it works great. And that it translates to all areas of life. It's work, life, hobby, passion, like all over the place. That's just what it is. So, okay. So you talk some about technology, different things. So tell us about that in practice. What are some of the things that you guys have figured out that work well, that satisfy the needs of the patient, the team, and the profitability of the business?
You got it.
Look at all those things.
Well, it's great you said that because, when I speak, I talk about the triple win of technology. Like it has to be a win for the patient, first and foremost, if I'm evaluating any new technology. Like, is this going to make their experience better, their treatment faster? Like, what is it doing for the patient? What is it doing for my team experience? My experience in the chair, right? Like, how is this helping us? And then how is it helping the practice? Is it more profitable? Can I differentiate? What's going to, why am I bringing this on? I mean, obviously there's fun things out there, of course, and people want to dabble and they want to try, but I've really been systematic in how I think about technology and how I bring it into my practice. And from day one, I mean, Chic Orthodontics, we were digitally scanning patients, when I opened in 2014, using the 3M TrueDepth scanner with powder and retractors in 30 minutes, to take the impression. So that was not a win for the patient experience.
No.
It still was an alginator, I suppose, but I knew that was the future. So from day one, we were incorporating technology with that goal, and kind of usually about every year or two, something new would be brought in, and I have this kind of roadmap of how I've integrated technology over time. And it got to the point, obviously we were using aligners, we were using 3D printed appliances, digital scanning, like I said, cone beam. I had all these pieces in place, but I was still missing my fixed option. I felt like, I couldn't get that full efficiency of the workflow because I didn't have a indirect bonding system or a digital system for my braces. And so that's, we brought on Lightforce in 2020 as a comprehensive bracket system. And then once I affiliated with Smile Doctors, we brought on dental monitoring for every patient. And again, weighing the pros and cons of all of those things. And what I tell doctors is like, you can't just bring on a technology and sit back and relax and think everything's going to change. It's why are you bringing this on? What's your goal? What do you need to fix in your experience or your practice or your profitability? And then drive towards that. There's going to be a learning curve. You're going to have to incorporate new systems. You've got to learn this. You've got to empower your team around it, and you've got to stay on top of it, because otherwise you're just wasting money and time. I mean, you're paying more for something. If you're not driving the efficiencies and the systems with it, it's not going to be a good decision ultimately.
Totally agree. I think all the reps of these companies would have us believe in this, in this nebulous, okay, we're gonna be more efficient,
magical,
and you'll, in theory, this theoretical savings, and that you'll be more efficient, you can do it in fewer visits, and
it's only one case a year or one case a month. There's always these lines that they use about the cost.
They're good, good, right? And I think unless you're scrupulous about your business approach, they sell a lot of them. And I think when we have to look at it, and I think Smile Doctors does a very good job of this, is looking at the data. Let's pull the data. Let's sit with the doctor, and then together let's look and see, hey, did we get an offset in the P&L? So we had all this increased cost. Where did we reduce in the P&L? And so is that on the labor line? Is it on what other line did we find it? Otherwise, we're only increasing costs. And so it's actually detrimental to the business. And so that's where we
every time I brought on a technology, I loved watching my P&Ls, and I thought of them like levers, it's like, okay. And at the same time too, which is maybe a different thing than Smile Doctors can do, but like I was willing to take a little bit of the cost on myself personally, right? Because I thought of it like a residency. I'm going to learn this. I want to become masterful at it. I know that I may not get the efficiencies in the immediate short term, but they will pay off if I take the time to learn it. And so it was always like the practice residency cost is kind of how I saw it. Some were a little longer than others, but it was always having that long-term vision of like, where am I going? What do I want? Why am I bringing this in? And I'm going to work really hard to make sure that I'm using it as effectively as possible.
Right. I think we have the benefit of data too, to look and see, hey, what applies. That's always been our approach, is to go, what can we apply in big swipes that we can get, that doctors will adopt, teams will quickly adopt, patients will adopt. Sometimes we fight them on these technologies. This is going to be so great. And they don't see it. And they're like, well, I don't really care.
Well, even scanning, with dental monitoring, it's so obvious to me, but it's one more thing that they have to comply with, and sometimes patients have challenges around that for whatever reason. And so that's where it comes back into remembering why we are doing this, and we're doing it for them, not to them. I talk to my team a lot about that. We need to own that this is actually a service to them. So when we present it to them, we can explain it in a way that makes sense. And it's not just one more thing that they have to take home and they have to do. It's like, okay, now you've got your rubber bands and you've got your brushing and you've got your scan box. It's like, no, it's not the same. The scan box is something else, right? And how are we presenting that to them so they can really adopt it and have it work for them and for us?
I'm there. I think oftentimes our ego gets in the way. We were like, hey, we're going to force this thing to work. It is going to work because I decided that we were going to move this way. I heard one of my favorite coaches. I've heard he's become a little bit more popular online as of late. His name is Peter Crone. And I think, let me quote him correctly, but I think he said, the need to be right is a poor man's way of expressing self-worth. And so I went, oh, that hit hard. And so do I need to be right here? And ask myself this question, because if the patient wants it or they don't want it, then it's my job to meet them where they are. Instead of the paternalistic approach of always, you're going to do it my way, patient. You're going to come in when I want to see you. And my interval, the way I want to do it, and I don't care how many visits it takes you, whatever is most convenient for me. And it implies the same way. I was like, what are we offering our patients in order to help them achieve the result they want? Well, they may want it a different way, and they may comply a different way, and we have to be able to be willing to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So
love it.
As we're wrapping up here, so let's talk about the importance of like building a life that reflects what you want. Talk a little bit about how you take care of yourself to help better take care of others, and kind of that role of self-care a little bit more. Talked about rest. Sure. I understand the importance of that. And I'm not bashful to say I need 8 or 9 hours myself. And so it just means I got to take care of my day so that I can get the rest I need so I can show up my best during the day. What are some of the techniques you use?
That. Yeah. Like I said, as I get older, I realize I need more downtime, more alone time even. I've always been what I thought was an extrovert, but I think there's a limit to that for me. I'm realizing that alone time really does recover for me, or time with close friends, right? One-on-one time, two-on-one time. And so I've carved that out. I have great friends that I really prioritize time with. It might be a spa day, of course. That's what you think of when you think of self-care. It's like, go get a massage, get a facial, but really it's the conversation and the intentional time that I have with my friends that recharges me. I journal, which is new in the last few years for me too. There's actually an app, if people are interested, but it's called Rosebud, and it's AI. And it's encrypted, but it's a place where you can go and share thoughts and it will respond back to you. So it's kind of an active journaling. And I found that to be really helpful. Just to get your thoughts out, kind of do a gratitude practice every day, really set an intention of what my mindset's going to be in the morning before I start my day, wrap it up again at the end of the day. So my own personal huddle, maybe morning and evening huddles.
Exactly that. It applies to ourselves. Like we have to take that time of what do I want for the year? What do I want for this week? What do I, for today? I'm with you.
And just a safe space to dump it out too. It's like nothing's off limits. And I can just be open and honest and really reflect on those things and start to, again, recognize patterns and areas that need more focus in my life. So that's been a huge help. Doing better about movement every day. It used to be, again, just taking care of everyone else. There was never any time for me to exercise, to lift weights. I know you're very good at this and you've done this. But like I said, a couple of years ago, I was focusing on getting better with my sleep. Now it's really focusing more on my physical wellness and making sure that I'm taking care of myself that way too.
Yeah.
So it's mental and physical. It's all of it. Like we really have to be able to take care of ourselves in that way. And the standard analogy is always the oxygen mask, right? If the plane's going down, put your own on first, because you can't help anybody if you can't breathe. And it's the same thing. I've learned that I am not invincible. I thought I was. I'm not. I have to take care of my body and I have to take care of my mind if I'm going to be who I want to be and show up every day the way I want to show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing all that. So you mentioned that you started seeing a coach in 2016. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So take us back. What caused you to do that? What were you feeling? And maybe there's somebody listening right now who might be feeling similar. And where do people need to be in order to start?
So I was pregnant with my third. When I opened the practice, just to kind of give some background on all of this, I had a 3-year-old and I was pregnant when we decided to do this. Okay. And I I was supposed to close on my practice the day my son was born. And we pushed closing a week, and I did everything with him just on my lap, getting it done. Right. And had no time for myself, no time to think about anything else. Right. And the practice opened when he was, I think, 4.5 months old. I lived next to my practice and was able to kind of jump back and forth and nurse and come back to work and, just making it work. Yeah. And all hands on deck, just get it done, get through this phase is kind of how it felt. And there really wasn't a lot of intention because it was just, I have to take care of everything coming at me. When I got pregnant with my third, the practice was growing exponentially. The weight was, again, the bar, right? The weight was continuing to pile on. And I was seeking support. I found, I was networking. I had kind of asked local women, like other orthodontists and colleagues, and like I said, people in my community to build these kind of community groups with me and just a place of support and networking. And what ended up happening was I saw a poster for a strategic planning for 2017 with this coach who was in my town. Okay. And I ended up going to this session with her, and there were other business owners in the class. And she started a mastermind group based on that class. So I ended up starting to work with her in this group setting and soon found that the challenges that I had were different than the challenges of these other business owners because they were, side hustles or startup kind of businesses that didn't have teams. And I realized a lot of my stresses and a lot of my challenges were coming from being both a doctor and an employer, a business owner and a doctor, serving both of these different populations in different ways. And so I started doing one-on-one coaching with her. So I got lucky, I think, in some ways that she was available and present, and I stumbled upon this coaching. But I also think that I had intention of building support somehow and finding that support somehow because I knew I needed it. And so I guess people need to be willing to be vulnerable. I guess when you ask what they need to be in order to do this, it's knowing you need help and being okay that you might need some help or support or a different perspective. Knowing like like I said, I'm a constant learner. I love learning. I love hearing new perspectives. I'm super curious about how other people get things done or why they are the way they are and what their stories are. But I don't know if everybody has that open mindset all the time. And I think you have to be willing to hear hard things. You have to be willing to think differently than you have thought before. What got you here is not going to get you there. And so that's I think the first step is admitting you might need some support and then going to find it wherever it works.
I love that. I completely agree. I think we have to want the outcome more than we want, our path that we're on. We have to be willing to move and change and adopt and adapt and all that it takes in order to achieve the outcome and be okay with being wrong and making corrections. Right. Yes. If you just want to be right, you'll be right.
And taking advice and getting a new perspective and trying new things. It's a journey. And I remember my coach early on said, she's like, I'm going to tell you these things, or we're going to talk about these things and they'll be in your head, but it's going to take years for them to get to your heart because you have to unlearn so many patterns and habits and behaviors and stories that you just think are normal, right? You're kind of running on autopilot. And there were just these like little aha moments, right? Little light bulb moments, and she'd say them and I'd think, really? That's possible? Or other people think differently than that, and then it starts to become normal and natural for me to think that way or to behave that way too. So it's not an immediate change. I think any journey you step onto is going to take a while to get there, but you got to take that first step.
Yeah. How many of those things were around, self-judgment of you and all that? How much of it was that?
A lot. A lot. I mean, I was raised by 2 farm kids who did everything themselves. It's like, if it is to be, it's up to me. And, and I think there's truth in that. Like, you have to own it. Like, there's nobody can make you feel a certain way. Right. And nobody can make you do certain things, but there was a lot of, it's my fault. I'm failing. I'm a failure. There was a lot of that. If I didn't get the outcome I expected, or if I wasn't there yet. And, a lot of not good enough, or not
enough. Yeah.
Why haven't you done that yet? Like, I can see clearly how good it could be, and I would beat myself up for not being there yet.
Right.
And a lot of beating myself up, I would realize. And again, it was getting somebody to kind of start asking me these questions. Well, how did you think in that moment? Right. And waking up to my thoughts and being an observer of my thoughts. And that is not something I would have done without coaching. Mm-hmm. And I've learned so much from that. And it's still, again, it's a years-long process. Every time you think you're there, suddenly another layer appears, and you got to start working on that next layer. It's a never-ending journey, but that's the cool part of it too. And another visual, again, is she talked to me about the spiral of growth, right? It's like, you're not going to not hit those same situations again. I'm going to get another bad review. I'm going to have another issue with a patient. Like, all those things are going to keep coming up for me, but hopefully I'm hitting them at a little higher level every single time. And that's how you know that things are changing inside, because I don't hang on to that stuff anymore. I don't beat myself up as strongly anymore. I'm not losing sleep over those things. It's only 2 days that I think about it instead of 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Those kind of baby steps along the way, but that gives you confidence that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. It's not that the thing itself changed, but our capacity to see it, or our perspective on it, is what has changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What you were talking about a little bit about, there's a lot ingrained in us. And I had a coach start off our relationship asking me, she said, well, tell me about the soup you were cooked in. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh my goodness. Cause it's kind of like chicken, right? If you marinate some chicken, it's going to taste like that for a while.
Yeah.
And I suppose you can get it out, but it takes a while to get it out. And that's how we are with our thought processes, with our judgments, with a lot of it. And so for me, a big part of the journey was forgiveness, forgiving myself for judging myself so harshly, and, in the perfectionism kind of that might be the theme to all of this. But then to go, okay, well, what's possible? What do I want? Is this serving me really, or am I just super ego driven on all of it?
Yeah. And with the forgiveness too, there's almost like a grief of the time lost for me sometimes. Yeah. Where I think, man, why couldn't I have learned that 6 years ago? Or why didn't I know that 10 years ago when I opened? But that's the forgiveness. You can't, you don't know. But once you do know, then, as Oprah says, when you know better, you do better. Or Maya Angelou, somebody said that. And I believe that greatly.
Yeah. You spend a lot of the time in the rearview mirror, looking back on what could have happened, or worrying about what'll happen tomorrow. And you're not present, to your point. Yeah. So absolutely agree. This has just been wonderful speaking to you. I don't want to speak for you, but what if there are people out here listening who want to get started, or are struggling with certain aspects, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm always available. I would say probably the easiest way actually is Instagram. I love Instagram. It's like a gratitude practice for me. And I've connected with a lot of people I wouldn't have otherwise connected with around the world. So my handle is dr.chiek, SCHIECK. That's probably the most straightforward and easy way to do it. Facebook obviously is, once in a while I'm on there too. And then my email, you can get a hold of me as well. It's Jacqueline, I should say, JACQUELYN .chiek, SCHIECK @smiledoctors.com.
Awesome. And I'll put my name up there too. So Scott.law @smiledoctors.com. If you have any questions, or want to start your own journey, or don't know where to start, or you just want to vent, like, I'm here.
Yep.
Here for anything.
Absolutely. And you're not alone. I just think that sometimes it's hard to talk about this stuff. Right. And like I said, I know you'd say the same, like, I'm not perfect at it. I'm still very much learning, but the more I talk about it, the more people come out of the woodwork sharing their own struggles. And so just getting that message out there that there's a path forward if you take the time to really reflect and think about where you want to go.
Yeah. We say it all the time, better together. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's already blazed this trail. So let's figure it out.
Absolutely.
Get people on their own journey in that way. Yeah.
Yep.
Love it. This has just been wonderful speaking to you. I appreciate who you are for me, for your patience, for your team. You're an inspiration. And so thanks for sharing a little bit about your life.
Appreciate that. Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Learned a lot from you too. So looking forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Yep.
Rewind. Yep.